Good afternoon, my friends. So this is a look in the dark, and it's chapter 10, now 4, and this is the third part of that chapter. You might remember that after a chat with Theo, Carol had got a taxi to Sue's home because she wants to offer her a job. And she's met Mrs. Parry, Sue's mother, at the door, and Mrs. Parry says, "Hello, I'm Mrs. Parry, Sue's mother. Is it about the job?" "Hello, Mrs. Parry. My name's Carol. I'm pleased to meet you." Carrie held out her hand and detected in the handshake some nervousness. "Well, Carol, you had better come in." As Carol followed the lady down the hall, she detected a slightly suspicious attitude which didn't surprise her. As they entered the sitting room, Carol noted the clean, newly decorated walls and had already been impressed by the hall. "Well, Mrs. Parry, someone certainly has a flair for interior decorating." "Oh, thanks, I can't take the credit though. Bill, my husband, is the one for that." She smiled just like her daughter. "When it's time to brighten the place up, I go and buy one of those flashy home and garden type magazines, find something nice to show it, then show it to Bill, and well, he does a fair better job than the folk in the magazines did usually." "I can see that. This is amazing. Has Sue inherited this town?" Carol pointed at the soft blue ceiling and the deeper blue wallpaper with a gentle golden pattern. "Well, she's artistic. Did well in her exams with that. Not that her exams have helped her much." "Listen, Mrs. Parry, you know why Sue got the sack?" "Yes. I was very angry with her, but she absolutely insists that she didn't steal anything." "Do you believe her?" "Well, she never stole anything before. Sue's no angel from heaven, but she's a good girl, really. She was kind of brought up to admit her misbehaviour and accept the consequences, that was better, and she always did that. I can't see why she would have stolen any paper." "Mrs. Parry, your daughter did not steal any paper." "How do you know that? You don't even know Sue, do you?" "Only slightly, but I do know who took that paper, and it wasn't your daughter." "I believe her, but her dad thinks she did, and there have been such rows." Mrs. Parry was starting to cry. "Bill and her have always been so close, but he feels she has let us down very badly. I've been stuck in the middle." Impulsively, Carol put her arm round the older woman's shoulder. "Please don't upset yourself. I know Sue is 100% innocent, so she is. Also, at least for a while, I have a good job for her." "I'm sorry, her father is such a stickler for honesty. I told him he was judging her unfairly. There was a terrible row here, and we're just not like that, and not normally." "Believe me, Sue is better off away from the man who was employing her. She never liked him much." Mrs. Parry was drying her tears away. "Nor do I, and we have just cause not to like him." Carol's strong feelings came out in the way she said those words. Mrs. Parry looked into Carol's green eyes for clues as to why she felt so strongly about Major Stanhurst. But at this point the conversation was interrupted because Sue arrived home. "It's Sue now. Would you like a cup of tea or coffee?" "Coffee would be fine, thanks. White, no sugar." "Thanks, Mrs. Parry. Please call me Deborah, or Debbie if you like." Their worried mother was now thinking that Carol would be a help in the present family problem. She entered the kitchen as Sue came into the sitting room. "Oh, hello." Sue seemed more subdued when they'd last spoken. "Hi Sue, how you doing? Do you remember me at all?" "Yes. The really nice Northern Irish lady who came about a book. I'm a bit confused though. Didn't expect to find you here." Sue usually remembered faces. Debbie Parry tactfully closed the kitchen door. "I'm here, Sue, to offer you a job, if you're interested, that is." "A job?" She looked at the floor, and Carol noticed for the first time the heavy boots that just looked so hard on those pretty legs. Fashion often made her laugh. She waited for Sue to speak. "Mrs. McGovern, isn't it? Do you know what happened? Why I lost my job?" "Yes, I do. I know exactly what led to your dismissal, and I also know that you definitely did not steal that paper and ink. So if you want to if I want to offer you a job for a few weeks and a chance to get out of the big city for a while, are you going to take it? Sorry, Mrs. McGovern, I'm very confused. Everything seems to muddle me lately. I'm glad you think I'm innocent, but how do you know that? Carol gave Sue a big grin. I'll explain that later. How good are you at solving puzzles? Don't know. At school I really did like problems best in maths. It was better than just figures for the sake of it, you know what I mean? I was like that, Sue. Farmer O'Brien had 3 workers and they earned £3 an hour. And he had 57 pigs, 14 bullocks and 233 sheep. So how much would a monkey cost? Something like that, you mean? She giggled like a 12-year-old, which was partly nerves. She just didn't know what was going on. Are you really offering me a job? Yes. £80 a week, plus expenses, board and lodging thrown in, and if the job is well done, a bonus at the end. Even more important, unless you unexpectedly turn out to be a highwaywoman. When you finish working for my husband and I, we will give you a glowing reference, stressing your honesty, and will send a copy to any future prospective employer. But why? Why? Sue hesitated, smiling and studying Carol's face. Why are you doing this? Well, for one thing, you're a victim of an injustice that I can set right. Second, we need someone to use their brain on our behalf right now. Third, you're well away from Stanners, but last, nonetheless, a major factor, the day I first met you, I thought you were a nice wee girl. But whatever the but, it died on her lips, and like her mother earlier, she wiped a tear from her cheek. Don't you want to see my examination results? What are they? I did not bad in maths, English, art and history, okay in physics and domestic science, not quite so good in religious education, and I failed geography. I'll go and get my certificate. Oh, no, don't worry about that, Sue. So how about you coming down to Somerset and try it for a week? When? Now. That's as good a time as any. Now? Is that a problem? I don't think so. She was laughing. It was just out of nowhere. I can't really grasp what's happening. I'm not sure what to say. Well, in that case, just say yes. Sue was really laughing now. She felt like this was all a dream that made little sense. It reminded her of reading Alice in Wonderland, and if a white rabbit had run into the room, she would have almost expected it. Yeah, I'll come. The white rabbit didn't arrive, but Deborah Parry did, and she brought a tray with 3 coffees and a plate full of iced cakes. Despite having recently enjoyed one of Theo's mega breakfasts, Carol decided she would eat just one. She remembered Danny's recent comment that it defied science that she could eat like a bear and still look like a swan. Mum, I have a job. Good girl, when do you start? Right away, but I have to go to Somerset. Deborah Parry looked from her daughter to Carol. Somerset? Why? Carol felt that both women needed some explanation, though she knew she would have to choose her words carefully. We need a bright girl like Sue to do some paperwork. It's all to do with things like this. She held up the heavy book. My husband Danny, he's an author. Sue looked pleased, but it was her mother who responded, a writer. That's right, but we were both involved in some field work at the moment, a very important wildlife project. While we concentrate on what we need, we need someone to sort out some records and maybe unfurl some puzzles for us. But where? Where will Sue live? Danny and I live in a fairly modest home, but we have a nice spare bedroom, and Sue can stay there, and I promise we will treat her like part of the family. How long is this job for? I'm not really sure about that, Mrs. Parry. However, I promise Sue will get a good wage, lodgings thrown in, and food, and a bonus on completion of the work. I hope you're okay with that. You and your husband, that is. Carol looked at Debbie Parry for an answer. So, looks like Sue's got herself a job. Looks like she's getting involved in something she doesn't even know about yet. And it looks like Carol's enjoying tying some loose ends together and taking things forward. Hope you're all well, my friends, and I really do thank you for continuing to listen to this story. A story is only really worth writing if somebody listens to it after all. Isn't that true? Love to one and all. Bye for now. Thank you. Bye bye.